Impacts are imminent with this feisty storm here that's developing over the eastern half of the United States, with dangerous severe storms possible to start out the event, and then eventually we'll turn our attention to rain, wind, and even snow for other areas. I'll time it all out for you here with details on this impact zone map to start us off right now. One Nation Weather. Alright, let's go ahead and get on into this details map here, just to kind of give you a look at what you're going to be seeing from this system. Now, we're looking at severe storm potential being the biggest concern here over the mid-south and the lower Mississippi River Valley, maybe into parts of the southwestern Ohio Valley as well with the system into our Saturday especially. Heavy rain for everyone else around the East Coast here, with some snowfall back into parts of the, interior New England especially, with very high wind gusts right there along that southern New England coastline. We're going to time everything up for you here. Let's start with this marginal severe risk for our Friday evening and night here. Right after I'm filming this, some big hail producing storms could occur here into parts of western Arkansas especially, with maybe 1 to 1.5 inch hail possible into some of these zones. That's going to be the main concern with these storms, not really looking at much of a wind or tornado threat out of these, though some quick gusty winds, maybe 50 to 60 miles per hour, and a brief spin up just can't completely be ruled out with the ingredients we have here. But overall, it's just a hail threat. You can see those storms kind of pushing towards the Little Rock area into the 1-2 a.m. central time frame here in the morning on your Saturday. We've got a good cluster of some rain and some rumbles of thunder here over parts of northwestern Illinois, southeastern Iowa, northeastern Missouri here during that same time frame. That's the low pressure bringing this area of storms further south, and this is just day one. Day two is really going to be our Saturday severe risk that gets going here. You can see moving out of the Arklatex on up towards portions of Tennessee as well as southern Kentucky. This zone really having that that pretty conducive area for some scattered severe storms capable of gusty winds, tornadoes, as well as a hail threat. So pretty much all modes possible here. Now let's time this out into our Saturday afternoon. I just want to focus on this one standstill graphic here. Most of the storm energy is expected to be, at least expected to be with the models here, centered over portions of northern Mississippi and northern Alabama, but we'll have some more shifting of the winds with height in the atmosphere here further north into parts of Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio. Just not really looking like there's going to be much instability up there, which is why the threat kind of drops off. But if we can get enough instability to produce some storms up there, a brief spin-up tornado or some gusty winds cannot be ruled out in that zone. So let's time this area out. In the morning, we've got the low pressure system kind of working its way on off towards the northeast. This one's actually not going to fuel the storm the entire way through its lifespan, but it is bringing the severe weather threat for our Saturday, so that's why it's important to break this down. By the way, if you're here for winter weather in the northeast, go ahead and skip about to around 5-6 minutes into the video, but let's go ahead and break this on down. You can see here severe storms moving out of parts of Arkansas potentially here into the afternoon, but overall it's looking like once we get towards around 2-3 p.m. Central Time, that's when this line segment of storms will be extending from, say, Memphis, Tennessee, on up towards places like Louisville, Cincinnati there, into the Ohio Valley. Again, if we can get enough instability further north, we could see some of this be severe there in that Louisville region. But overall, it's looking like some of these storms will be just west of Nashville around this time, near Clarksville, Tennessee as well. Some of these zones getting in on it. It'll be around 4 or 5 o'clock when Nashville starts to see some of the impacts. Also notice some of these more, isolated cells into parts of northern Mississippi. These could certainly be tornado-producing supercells. Again, are we expecting a tornado outbreak out of this? No, this is a slight risk for severe weather, and it's mainly looking to be some clusters and segments of storms here. But we could see some scattered damaging wind gusts 60 miles per hour, as well as that chance for some embedded tornadoes and some hailstones, especially early on in the lifespan. As we continue to see this progress eastward, places into parts of central Kentucky, southern Ohio could be getting in on this. Again, all the way on up through Columbus, Ohio to Cleveland, some of these zones really seeing some pretty heavy rain and what looks like some pretty feisty storms. So we'll see if we could at least get some special weather statements, some 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts out of those. And then again, into the overnight hours here into our Saturday night, into our Sunday, maybe some isolated severe weather getting into northern Georgia as well, with a tornado threat not being able to be ruled out there. Shifting our attention to the other high-resolution model, we were just looking at the HRRR, now we're looking at the NAM. The NAM a little bit less reliable, but still a good model to look at here with that severe weather potential, especially since it extends further out in a high resolution than the HRRR does. You can see a pretty big mess of rain and storms as a new low-pressure system is actually going to have to develop to help this on out into the afternoon. This is Sunday afternoon, say around 3, 4, 5 o'clock. Cells in eastern South Carolina through Wilmington, North Carolina, some of these areas around New Bern, and then also back towards Charlotte, North Carolina, and Columbia, South Carolina, some cells developing. So again, kind of two waves with this. And the Euro model times this out pretty well in a high resolution. You can see, again, initial low pressure system driving our Saturday threat especially. Maybe some light snow curling back around from the northwest there in Wisconsin. But, you can see really that linear segment of storms with the potential for those embedded tornadoes tornadoes stretching from parts of especially southern Ohio back on down into parts of northeastern Louisiana. Threat getting shaved for our Saturday, by the way, out of northeastern Texas mostly. Here we go into our Sunday early morning. Big mess of some rain. It needs some help as it moves eastward here into parts of PA all the way back down to that Florida Gulf Coast there. Most of South Florida will be pretty unscathed from this. But again, here you can go. You can see a new low pressure system, that L on your screen there in parts of Virginia. That's got a little bit of those storms in eastern South Carolina and eastern North Carolina I was talking about. And then we get that new little line to develop here. Really, as this storm begins to move offshore, could we see some very strong winds with some of these storms right in that mid-Atlantic coastline zone into our late Sunday? Certainly could. And we'll also have, that snowfall trying to wrap back on around here into parts of northern Vermont, parts of New York, as well as parts of PA. And I'll actually show you a model in a minute, a high-resolution one, the NAM. That's going to actually show some snowfall, trying to work its way a little bit closer to the coast as the system heads on off towards the northeast like it was doing right there. So here's that zoomed-in high-resolution view that I want to show you now. Again, you can see here we go. We've got, this mess of some rain, some embedded thunderstorms, maybe a few of them further down south severe. By the way, it's a marginal severe risk here in the parts of Florida, southeast Georgia, along the Carolina and Virginia coastline into our Sunday. New low pressure is going to develop here over Virginia with that wraparound flow, helping to bring some snowfall into the mountains of the Appalachia region here. So from parts of, the western North Carolina mountains on up through parts of Virginia, some of these zones getting in on some snow. But also notice how some of this could wrap back around into central Virginia, central PA, Scranton, maybe seeing some wet flakes and heavy snowfall very briefly here Sunday night into our Monday as this energy curls back around. Also notice areas really in parts of New York and Vermont being a better bet here for, that snowfall. We've been seeing that for at least a day now, with snowfall impacting those areas the hardest. Notice how that's heavy from places like, Rutland, Vermont, northward through Montpelier, areas in northeastern New York as well, getting in on some snowfall. And in parts of Maine, it starts out as some rain shifting over towards some snow towards the tail end of the event. So we'll see if we can get snowfall to make it all the way to the I-95 corridor there. But if it cannot, we're just looking at heavy rain. And even if it does, just some brief heavy, wet snowfall. Now with our wind gusts here, that's what I've turned my attention to at this point. You can really see that front with that initial low pressure system working its way towards Appalachia. Some of those purples indicating, 20, 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts. Nothing too extreme at this point as it makes its way towards some of these regions. Again, you can see the little cursor showing you some of the numbers, 30, maybe 35, upwards of 35 miles per hour in the gust, category early on. We begin to see the gusts really pick up, and I want to focus on the northeast the most here, especially into eastern PA, southeastern New York. Some of these zones beginning to get some 40 mile per hour wind gusts. This could include Philadelphia into our Sunday afternoon. Here we go into our late Sunday evening and into our early Monday morning time frame. That's when we're going to begin to see the winds pick up on Long Island. Islip, you could be seeing some 60 mile per hour wind gusts all the way on over to Montauk, some 60, 65, up to hurricane force gusts possible, especially along that immediate coastline. And then this shifts on over towards Cape Cod, especially here into that, say, 4 a.m. Monday time frame. Some of these gusts, especially in those deeper yellows, the tan colors, possibly, approaching that 60, 70, even 80 mile per hour threshold, and we'll eventually see those as well shift on up into parts of southeastern Maine with some near hurricane force gusts possible in that area as well. So we need to monitor those winds. What we also need to monitor is the snowfall totals here. Again, right now this is a model blend, all the models here collected into one. You can see right in through Appalachia there in southeastern West Virginia into the western North Carolina mountains, some decent snow, especially there in eastern West Virginia, where we could pick up a quick maybe 4 to 6 inches. Some of these zones in parts of PA, New York, Vermont, we could pick up upwards of a half a foot, mostly in northern New York as well as Vermont. Could we see a quick dusting closer to the coastline? Yes, but I just don't really expect it to make it to the I-95 corridor like that NAM model was showing necessarily. With your rainfall totals here, we're looking at, a solid stripe of an inch or two, really exiting the southeast, heading all the way on up into all areas of the northeast. So if you're not getting snow, you're getting heavy rain. Some of these zones in the mid-Atlantic and along that immediate northeastern and New England coastline could pick up a very solid 2 to 4 inches of rainfall, causing some flooding. Though some flooding could be in the southeast as well. Temperatures will cool down quite quickly behind this system, with a pull of freezing overnight temperatures making its way pretty much all the way to the eastern seaboard eventually. So again, let's kind of recap those zones that we're talking about with the storm system, and then we'll close this video on out. Storm impact zone map. Again, we're looking at severe weather here into our Saturday, mainly here over the lower Mississippi River Valley into the southwestern Ohio Valley. Right now it's looking like ingredients will come in play enough for a lower end tornado threat, some scattered tornadoes possible, one here, one there, up along this linear segment of storms that will also be producing some damaging winds and maybe as well some marginally to slightly severe hail here. Heavy rain for everyone else in the eastern seaboard. Very high wind gusts in southern New England with snowfall into other parts of New England. But again, could we see some of that snowfall briefly mix in closer to the coast with some of those wind gusts towards the end? Yes. Am I expecting a complete blizzard out of the system? Not necessarily. By the way, portions of Michigan seeing some rain and then eventually snow out of the system. That's why I've got pink there, not ice. Please hit subscribe for accurate, easy to understand, and passionate forecasting. I hope you share this video with anyone you know in affected areas, even if you don't live there. Thank you so much for watching, and here are the credits, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll be providing more updates to keep you safe throughout this event.
One nation weather.